What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fish Lift Eat podcast. Hope everybody's week's getting started off on the right foot, and we appreciate you tuning in with us today. So, in studio today, we got the man behind the camera himself. Chad's joining me today. What's going on, Chad?
Not much, Casey. Good to see you again.
You too, man. We're going to take a little bit different approach tonight, I think. We spend a lot of time having fun on here, and fun's always got to be the center of it, because once fishing is no longer fun, I know I've said it before that'll be the day I get out of it. But we do dedicate a lot of time and effort to educating on techniques, on tactics, gear, etc. And we've had some incredible guests to come on and help us with that. But tonight I want to hit on a little bit different and talk about kind of the mindset that we as anglers have to have. When things get challenging, when things get tough, and maybe it's not going our way, and how we have to overcome those type things in order to have success on the water. So, I had tournament season kicked off for me. Let's see, from the time I listened to this 2 weekends ago, but had a real interesting series of events that led up to it, and just kind of wanted to share those along with kind of the theme here of mindset, and how you just got to kind of keep your nose to the wall sometimes and grind it out. But so just for perspective, it started 2 weeks prior to the tournament. I went out. I was supposed to go travel up to the lake that we were at. It's about an hour and a half commute for me from the house to the lake that our season was going to kick off at. And I went out on the Thursday afternoon, got in from work, and I was going to do the 100-hour service on my boat, just to kind of have everything freshened up and ready to go before we start really pounding on it during the season. So I go out. I go to trim my motor up and to take it off the motor toter and stuff, to be able to get it down, to do the oil change, etc. And quickly realized that I didn't have trim. It was not working. So, turn the switch back off, thinking maybe just the extremely cold weather that we had that week, maybe it drained my battery or something like that. So went and plugged the boat up, and my boat has a 4-bank Minn Kota precision charger on it. So for anybody that doesn't know what that means, is I've got 4 different batteries that all control different, provide power to different things on the boat, such as the cranking battery, the battery that runs my trolling motor, as well as all the accessories on the boat, as well, another one for my electronics, etc. Well, I plugged the charger up, and all 3 of the 4 batteries kicked on, started charging, no problem. Well, my number 1 battery, which is my cranking battery, which also runs the hydraulics and things like that, was giving me the evil red light that none of us like to see on our charger, which basically means a connection issue. So check the connections, yada yada yada, all the stuff that somebody unqualified like me in boat mechanics can do. Check the fuse, check the connections, etc. Well, still wasn't getting anywhere with it. And keep in mind, I'm supposed to be, my plan is to be pulling out, early the next morning to go start pre-fishing. Well, I get on the phone, started calling, my boat mechanic and etc. And one thing leads to another, and we figure out the best solution at that point is I need to get it to the shop ASAP. So instead of getting to fish on Friday, I basically had to miss out on a day of practice and took my boat to the shop. Well, fast forward, ends up being just a bad battery and some other wiring issues. Get it resolved, get it taken care of, go pick the boat back up on Friday, and I think we're good to go, right? Come home, finish the service on it, get all the tackle loaded up, and okay, missed out on a day, but at least now the boat's good to go. Everything in the back's all squared away, and we're ready to roll, right? Well, then Sunday rolls around, and now my truck decides to start giving us issues. I get in, and it starts throwing just a series of lights that I've never seen, the check engine light, and just a weird combination of things. And so, like any reasonable person does, I get on the internet and I get on the forums and I start typing in all the things that are popping up on my truck to try to figure out what's possibly causing this. And I guess it's kind of like researching things on WebMD. You're always going to see like worst case scenario things first. So I'm not even going to try to describe the what it said it was because I don't know what that system is. But essentially, it was like this is something you can only take to has to be done by a Toyota dealer, and the average cost about it's about $3,000. And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. So a couple of days ago, the boat's down. Now my truck's down, and at this point, like I'm getting pretty ill. Like I'm just beating my head against the wall. Like both of these things, I've not had the first bit of trouble out of my boat this year. I've not had the first bit of trouble out of this truck for the last 3 years that I've had it. Like just everything has been flawless, and then here we are, essentially a week out of the tournament season starting, and here come the problems start setting in. So it was real easy in that moment to just kind of say woe is me and start throwing my pity party and not taking the steps I needed to resolve these issues and keep going. And and I'm not gonna lie, I probably got a little too frustrated whenever the truck started giving problems. But had I give up on it at that point and just took it into a shop, and keep in mind this is on Sunday, so no shops are open on Sunday. So if I just kind of gave up on it, quit looking into stuff, at that point, I would have had to wait till Monday, make an appointment. Who knows when they could have got the truck in, and by the time they actually got it fixed and whatnot. But we kept looking, and my wife, to her credit, she kept me grounded during this, and she kept helping me research things, and we ended up finding this thing where it's like this from this year to this year truck, which mine fell in. They were like, for whatever reason, if it ever gets below 11 degrees, it can just like trip something out and just make something in the computer go haywire. So they're like, just pop the battery cable off and open the gas cap, leave it sitting for 10 minutes and hook everything back up and you should be fine. And I'm like, no way does that work. Absolutely no chance that works. So I do it anyway. Works like a charm.
Holy smokes.
Truck fired right back up, had absolutely no problems. And I'm like, I'm not convinced that this is going to last. So we put the kids to bed Sunday night. I run to the gas station, fill the truck up, and I just drive around for like an hour. Just sitting there waiting for, these lights to come back on and the issue to really, rear its ugly head again. Well, it never does. And to this day right now, like I've put, roughly another, 300-400 miles on the truck since then. And it's not gave any more trouble. So, I'm thinking, all right, we're good to go now, right? Like, got the boat dialed in, truck's ready to go. All right, we're ready to really get serious about this tournament. And then I start looking at the weather forecast. And so keep in mind that, our schedule, it came out, towards the tail end of last fall. So kind of I've had these dates marked for a while, been looking at, the past history on what kind of how the lake sets up around that time, etc. And then I start seeing some ugly things pop up on the forecast that were not there to start with. First it just starts out as it's going to be some rain, and I'm like, okay, that's not that bad, because actually the weather was on a really cool warming trend, and for this time of year, when we start seeing warming trends, we get super excited about what the bass are going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then anybody with an iPhone knows when you start looking at your weather app on there and you start seeing that ugly little lightning bolt that can come down out of the clouds sometimes, and that starts wigging you out a little bit whenever you're talking about spending, 8-10 hours on a body of water. So it's like, okay, so now the weather's going to throw a wrench in this thing. And because we've got, childcare lined up and everything for Saturday. And, now we're starting thinking about the tournament's going to get postponed and not going to have any childcare and this, that, and the other. Because my wife, who's, 32 weeks pregnant at the time, like, I've got to take into consideration her being here with, our two kids now. So that starts stressing me out and this, that, and the other. So having like, I wish I had $1 that week for how many times I had to look at the weather forecast, just hoping it was going to change, hoping it was going to change. Well, so I knew tournament. I knew at this point, after looking at the radar, I know it's going to rain regardless. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I've got rain gear for a reason. If you're a bass fisherman, you know that the first thing you buy is a boat. The second thing you buy is tackle for that boat. And the next thing you buy is good rain gear because you're going to need it. So we get to, now I'm down to where my practice days are going to be Thursday and Friday. And then tournament on Saturday. So go out there Thursday, just dumps rain on me all day. And the fishing's good though. I will say that. Like we were able to find some really good quality fish, and a pattern started developing. Like everything was looking great. But it as the day progressed, the rain and the weather just got progressively worse. And it just kept dumping. Like I can remember at one point, like my bilge was just running and dumping water just constantly, just pumping it out as fast as it was raining in. And so we're at like lunchtime, and I'm like, man, this is stupid. Like, the tournament's probably going to get canceled Saturday because this weather's just going to come in and get worse. Like I'm wasting my time out here. So just as I'm thinking, like, all right, let's go put it on the trailer and get dry and, go get something to eat. And I'm just like, you're not going to get any more wet than you already are. Like, you're already out here. The boat's soaked. You're soaked. Like, the fishing's good. Like, the tournament's going to happen at some point regardless. Like, why would you leave whenever you need to be working and figuring out how to, how you're going to catch them on tournament days? So that led me to, just, sucking it up and going out and continuing to fish. And what that allowed me to do, though, was I was able to keep building on that pattern and, finding more spots where fish were, where they were setting up on stuff and wherever, the areas that I wouldn't have been able to find and things I wouldn't have been able to expand on had I just went and put the boat on the trailer.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and you've come so far. I mean, all the barriers that you broke to get to this point, it does seem like, oh, well, do I quit? Do I continue? But after everything that you've accomplished, everything that you've overcome, it just makes it, more meaningful to keep pushing forward.
Well, you have to. There's no you can't ever get stuck feeling sorry for yourself in this game.
Yeah,
And this doesn't just apply to tournament fishing, right? I mean, that's where my experiences are going to come from because that's the season I'm in right now. But, it don't matter if you're, just a recreational bank fisherman, a pond fisherman, a fly fisherman out on the river. Like I don't care what you're at, if you're going to find excuses for when things aren't perfect, you're never going to progress and you're never going to get better and you're never going to, challenge yourself in these situations, which ultimately is what's going to allow you to be a better angler.
exactly.
So, stick it out, fish it all day Thursday, and just I'm on my way back to the ramp Thursday, and I'm feeling really really good about it. I'm like, man, we found some good stuff. Like this is I'm really happy with how I was able to use the day, and then I get back to the ramp, and so there's only 9 trailers there, including mine. Now there could have been somebody who put in at another ramp, but the way this lake's set up, like the ramp where our tournament was going out of, where I put in that day, is the one that's most heavily used. So there was only 9 people counting me, and I'm going to assume that those were guys that were pre-fishing for the tournament. Otherwise, I don't know who else would have been crazy enough to be out there that day. So, we got a heavy boat field, and to think that only 9 people were there, that's when I knew I made the right choice. I know, okay, I've already got one more leg up on the rest of the field because I was willing to come out here and go through these elements and go through this weather to be able to have, to be able to start putting a game plan together for the tournament day.
Right, exactly.
So anyway, go home, fill the boat up with gas, put it on the charger, and I head back up there Friday. And first thing I did, I went and checked, the place in my head where I'm already going to be starting at, where just, saw a lot of fish on forward facing sonar. I caught a few of them just to kind of see, get a gauge for the size in there. And it's, very good quality, fish that I'm going to be very, very happy to weigh in on tournament day. So I check them. They're still there, setting up just like they were the day before. So then I start expanding on it. And Friday's going just fantastic. Now, at this time, I'm basically catching 90% of my fish on one technique. And I don't mind sharing it, this time of year, which I throw one year round, but I'm catching a ton of fish on a jerkbait. To be exact, I'm catching them on a Megabass, 110 Junior +1. And just every time I'm able to pull up in a certain area, there's a very specific thing at this point that I'm looking at on a map, and that's where I'm going and trying to run. And when I pull up and I'm seeing fish set up a certain way, it's like I'm almost able to call my shot. That's how dialed they were. So fish all day, expand on this area, and we pull up on one ditch, and I see some fish, schooled up out there. So like I've done at every other spot, I throw that jerkbait out there to catch one, and just to kind of see what size of fish is living in that area. Come back on the back cast, go to cast, snap. I have no idea how. I don't know if I stepped on it when it was on the front deck or what could have possibly happened, but my jerkbait rod breaks right in half. And I'm just a couple seconds from just absolutely losing my cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Because now we are the day before the tournament. The rod that, and I know what people are thinking. They hear me talk on here about how many rods I have and this, that, and the other. But the thing about it is, a lot of my rods are extremely technique specific. So, like I said, I throw a jerkbait year round. Like there's not a time of year when there's not a jerkbait on my deck. So for me to snap that jerkbait rod, knowing that this is the technique that I'm going to be weighing on heavily to catch my fish on tournament day, like that was a serious blow, because now I'm like, I don't know that I have time to get out and get to the tackle shop in time to, try to find another rod. Like, truth be told, I just don't really want to drop a couple $100 right now on another rod just because this one broke, when I could, if I had the time to send this one off, I can, cash it in on warranty and get another one, yada, yada, yada. So whenever, kind of come to my senses, it's like, okay, let's take inventory of what I got. I open up my rod locker, because during practice time, I basically take everything I have, all my rods, all my tackle. Like whenever I see something that I want to try, like I want to be able to have it right there with me. So I don't have anything, that's just extremely specific to a jerkbait like I want. But then I've got another rod that I'm like, well, if there's one that I have that's going to work, it's going to be this one. So get it out, tie jerkbait on it, catch some fish with it, and I realized, like, okay, this, worst case scenario, I can still make it work. It's not exactly what I want, but I'm not dead in the water with it.
Right.
So, all right, so I get my head back to me after that, because that one threw me for a pretty hard loop. And at that point again is when I start thinking, like, maybe I need to leave and go, get my tackle situation figured out. Like maybe I do need to try to book it to a tackle shop, or start calling buddies, see if I can bum a rod, like something. Well, and matter of fact, at this point, I've already committed to that. Like I'm driving back to the ramp, like I'm about to put the boat on the trailer, and we're a little after lunchtime at this point. And then I got to thinking, it's like you're on the lake to try to find winning fish. Like you're not going to find more areas. You're not going to find more fish at the tackle shop. Like that's just, that can't be your priority right now if you've already dedicated this whole day to being out here. So make a quick turn right there, and I decided to stay on the lake. And I'll just kind of fast forward a little bit. I end up finding more areas in a whole different part of the lake that I had not even fished yet. That ended up being very, very key spots to me in the tournament. So if I had not taken the moment just to kind of chill out, get my head back right, my tournament wouldn't have even had the outcome it did, because I wouldn't have found those key areas, if I had left to go try to, figure out a rod situation. So that worked out for that in that sense. Well, just when you think that it can't get any worse, right? Like everything that could have possibly happened has happened. We've overcome it. We're good to go. Like we're ready to go fishing on tournament day. And then there's more. But the last one wasn't any kind of like detrimental thing, but it was just like the icing on the cake. So for anybody that that bass fishes, you'll know what kind of life jacket I'm talking about. So I run like the auto inflate, the self inflating life jackets, where it's just the the U style over your neck, and it's got the CO2 cartridge in it, which is meant to where you can either pull the rip cord and it's going to auto inflate in those situations, or on impact or things like that. And well, mine, it was I had to get in my compartment or whatever, in the back compartment to get some line out, and my life jacket was in there. And I was bebopping around in the same area, so I'll tell on myself a little bit. I didn't have it on when I was running in between spots. Well, something must have hit that thing just right, because whenever I opened up that compartment to get my line bag out, and my life jacket's inflated, it's gone off somehow or another. So I opened the lid to the compartment, and like spools of line just come popping out of there from where all the the pressure built up under that thing inflating. And it's just like I just sit down at this point, and I'm not necessarily just mad about the situation, about the life jacket going off, but it's just all of this coming together. Like there's something out there that is trying to keep me from fishing this tournament and keeping my mind on this tournament, because I've never had this many distractions or issues or anything leading up to one, no matter how big or how small the tournament was. So that one took me a moment. Just I had to sit down and just shake my head on that one, because I didn't know what I was, because I don't have another life jacket, and I was like, I don't have another CO2 cartridge. Like I guess I'm just gonna rock the old the orange standard life jacket that you can pick up, the rent a life jacket at the ramp, because I don't know what I'm gonna do at this point. Well, all I'm sitting here at this point, all the issues start running through my head. All the way back to the boat tearing up, the truck tearing up, the breaking the rod, the weather, now the life jacket. And it's just like, it would have been so easy in that moment to think like, it's just not meant to be. I'm not supposed to be here this week. Like I'm just gonna, go home, lick my wounds, stay warm and dry, and just not worry about it. But then I'm a big person of, everything's gonna happen for a reason. Nothing happens by accident.
Yep.
And so all I had to keep telling myself is, something's trying to keep me from being in this tournament. Something's trying to get me disgruntled and, not focused on this, because it must mean that something good's going to happen. So that's kind of where I had to get my mind on that. And instead of kind of dwelling on the issues that I had in front of me, it was like, okay, how are we gonna fix this one? We fixed everything so far. Like, what's going to be the solution to this one? So fish out the rest of the day. Had a great, like I said, had a great practice. Probably one of the best practices I've ever had with the areas I was able to find, the fish I was able to find. Like, it's very rare that I go into a tournament and just really feel like I know how I'm going to catch them, what I'm going to catch, and what's out there, what potential is there to have. And I'll be honest with you, I felt like I had a winning bag, and I did. Didn't win the tournament because of some other reasons, but we'll get there shortly. But ended up, on the way home, like ended up finding a rod. Ended up finding got another life jacket. Like, one quick phone call solved those problems before I even got home. Like, to where by the time I got the boat home, my brother was there waiting for me with one of his life jackets, and had a jerkbait rod for me that I didn't even know he had. So that worked out great. So tournament day, at this point, they're still calling for thunderstorms and lightning and stuff for Saturday. And so we get on our pre-tournament meeting, and the tournament director basically was saying, like, we're going to treat it like a fog delay, like we're going fishing tomorrow. So that was all I needed to hear. Like, we're going good. Like, now I'm really, really happy that I was able to overcome those things and, have a game plan and be ready to go for tournament day. And so we get to the ramp Saturday morning. I actually left. Man, I probably left my house 2 hours too early, because just I was like, I'm gonna blow a tire. Like, there's bound to be something else happen, right?
Right.
So I leave extremely early. Get up there, no problem. Get the boat dumped in the water, and now actually the weather's changed a little bit. Like, it's not even raining yet. We're looking at the forecast, and it's going to be like 8, 9 o'clock before the weather comes in. And I'm like, that's even better, because my first spot was a pretty long run. So I was like, we're going to be able to blast off, and I'm going to be able to get there real quick, get settled into my area, and then the weather will come, and we're going to be fine. We're going to catch them. And so we blast off, and just a side note here, it's pretty funny. The director, I was talking to him a little bit while we were sitting out in the water waiting for safe light, and he was talking about how many phone calls he had gotten from people that were just assuming that it was going to be canceled. It's like, oh, there's weather like this in the forecast, like, we're going to cancel this one, right? Like, when are you? People were already asking him, like, when are we going to reschedule this one? Yada yada yada. And he kept telling me, he's like, we're going fishing. So that tells me that some people had already wrote it off as we weren't fishing. So they had not been putting in the prep. They had not been putting in the practice time, because they were already assuming, oh, the conditions aren't going to be perfect, so this thing's going to get canceled. So that was kind of rewarding right there, was the fact of, there was a huge chunk of people that I was competing against that had not put any of the work in, because they assumed, that because we were going to be uncomfortable, that the event was going to get canceled. So anyway, fast forward. That's all the big dilemma, other than the next problem. It was more, I'll take more credit for preparation on my side. So this lake, it is a power plant lake. There is a power plant there that uses the lake water to to run through and cool the reactors and stuff off, which really has a lot of impact on the fish there, and the temperatures and stuff. And well, I realized me not being used to fishing a power plant lake, I didn't think to look at the generation schedule. So they had been pulling water Thursday and Friday, whenever I was there practicing, and I'd found all my fish and everything was just setting up perfect. Well, they didn't generate Saturday. I pull in my areas, and I have, like, the fish just aren't there. So the area that main big area that I'd spent all that time really Thursday and Friday, expanding on, like, it was super unproductive. Like, I left there in the middle of the day with like one fish in the live well. Well, I never even got a limit until like 2 o'clock. And the area where I ended up, catching my limit and even upgrading my limit a few times was that area that I decided to go check out on my way back to the ramp when I decided that I was going to stay in the rain, that I wasn't going to leave, that I wasn't going to, just wimp out on it and feel sorry for myself. That area ended up being the reason that I finished where I did in the tournament, because all of the fish that I weighed in came out of that area. So I wish I could say that, after all these events that, I ended up winning the tournament. I didn't. It wasn't even my best finish, but it could have been a whole lot worse. It could have been an absolute bomb. Like I'm sitting fine in points. Like, the season's off to a positive start and all that, but it could have at any point during that process, that prep time going into this tournament, it could have went a whole lot worse had I took the easy way out. Had I took the I'm going to go get comfortable route, or the I'm going to go feel sorry for myself just because, things aren't going my way.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of, that was a long story to get to what I want to talk about, but it's like your mindset is your most valuable tool when you're on the water. And like I said, it doesn't matter what kind of fishing you're doing. If you're not doing it with a clear mind and a strong mind, like, you're going to miss out on opportunities. You know, don't always look for the easiest way, but be stubborn enough to persevere through the hard times, because they're going to happen. Like, there's one way when everything in fishing goes right. When you pull up on that right spot or walk up on that right spot at the right time of day with the right tackle in hand and make that perfect cast, that perfect presentation, and land in front of that fish just in the time when it's ready to eat. And then, you got to have a good hook set, fight the fish right, land that fish. Like, for that to happen, everything has to be right. Well, there's a million other ways for it to go wrong. And we can't get too caught up on those things. We can't add to the challenges that are already there that are out of our control. We can control how we want to approach things. We can control how we want to react to situations. So my challenge to everybody is just, apply that to whatever style of fishing you like to do. Like I said, this doesn't even have to be a tournament fishing. This could be, you're going to go out, this Saturday morning, and, you're heading out to your river to do some fly fishing, or, heading out to, a local lake that you're going to, fish off the bank. And maybe you get up and the conditions aren't perfect. Maybe you get up and, you can't find your truck keys. You can't, find that one jig you like to throw or whatever. Like, push yourself to become better by overcoming these hardships and these obstacles, because that's the only way you're going to learn. That's the only way that you're going to be better. That's the way you're going to be better prepared for the next time, because they're going to happen. It doesn't matter. Like, I can assure you, those are not the only issues I'm going to have during tournament season. Like, I'm going to have truck issues. I'm going to have boat issues. It's just a matter of time of when. I'm rough on equipment. I'm rough on tackle. Like, I'm going to break more rods. I'm going to break off, expensive lures. Like, it's going to happen. But you've got to stay mentally strong and mentally focused so that you can overcome these things and keep yourself, in a position to be successful, no matter how that looks for you.
Yeah, my son's coach used to say to him that we can't control the outcome of the way things go, but we can control the outcome of how we act and how we respond to those. And I think that, like you say, that plays a big role. I mean, I've had many days where, you kind of fall off the deep end because things just don't seem to be going your way, and by getting frustrated and letting them ruin your day, it just keeps the spiral going instead of
Mm-hmm.
stopping and taking a step back and putting a stop to all that, and looking for the silver lining.
Yeah, you're always going to be your own worst enemy. And So that's kind of the approach I've had to take at my my pursuit at, progressing through tournament fishing and things like that, is because I don't have as much time as some of these guys do to be on the water. And that's the most important thing. I will say that in front of anybody and to anybody. The most important thing and the best tool you have to become a better angler is time on the water. You know, got a full-time job. I got a family to take care of. I got kids that are, getting in the age of playing sports right now. Like, I'm a husband and dad first.
Yeah.
And so I don't have 5-6 days a week like some guys do to dedicate to being on the water from daylight to dark. Like, I don't have the monetary resources to, have certain things or whatever, but I can control the controllables.
Yeah.
So I always want it to be. This is what I've I've had to explain to myself over and over and over again. I want to make what I have the best I can. When I do have time to be on the water, I want to make the most of it. When I'm rigging my tackle, I want to make sure that it's in as good a shape as I can make it be. I want it to be to where I personally, Casey, am the weakest link in the system. That way, when there's success, I can feel like I did my part. But to where when things don't go my way, I don't have excuses. I didn't execute. Like, I want to leave it on me. I don't want to blame it on, outside forces that, oh, well, I didn't do good because, I had boat problems, or, oh, I wasn't able to get out here as much because my truck, or, I couldn't really chase this bite because I broke my rod, or, I had to leave early because I had to go find a life jacket, that's just the situations that came up in this event. Like, at any point of those, yeah, I could have took the easy way out. And I'm not here to toot my horn. I'm not. I'm human. Trust me. I got pissed off during all of this. Like, at one point, I was so mad about my truck. Like, my wife thought I was mad at her because she was calling trying to help, and I was just being a butt on the phone whenever she was calling. And, like, I'm human. I get it. But take these opportunities to learn from. Take me being a knucklehead to understand that this happens to everybody. Like, whatever obstacles you're having to overcome in your journey is completely normal. It's going to happen. It happens to everybody. But where you can differentiate yourself from the big majority of people is how you respond and react to those situations. Are you going to use it to make yourself better, or are you going to fall victim to your own demise? Like, pick yourself up. It's fine. At the end of the day, if you're on the water fishing, it's not that bad.
Exactly.
It's the old corny saying of, well, a bad day of fishing's better than a good day at work.
Yeah.
Like, we overcomplicate this sometimes. And me especially, really, I put a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication into pursuing the goals I have for around tournament angling. But at the end of the day, like, I do it because I love it, you know. And you got to keep that perspective. You got to remember why you're doing it and why you're willing to deal with the obstacles that come with it. Because if not, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to, you know, problem solve and figure this stuff out on the fly, it's not worth it. It doesn't make it any more appealing to you whenever the good things are happening, because you don't appreciate them as much. So, just stay focused, stay stubborn. Like, don't fall victim to yourself and your conscience whenever these hard things start happening. Like, you know what you're trying to accomplish, and know that every problem can be solved. And any time that you take away from solving that problem is time that you could be spent, reaping the benefits of overcoming that and getting back out there.
Yeah. Well, and it teaches you too how to roll with the punches. like you said, then you know things aren't always going to work out. And I think for myself in general, I'm a control freak. If I have everything crossed off on my checklist, then it's going to be a good day. But if one of those things doesn't add up, I'm not 100% sure. And it's, you know, I've learned that you have to just roll with it,
Hmm.
compromise, and you know, come up with new plans. And it's like you said, if you're admitting defeat by not doing that.
Yeah, and you never know what kind of cool stuff you can learn whenever you're having to get creative to to overcome some of these things. Like there was part like I would have never thrown a jerkbait on that longer rod I had about it, but then by forcing myself to do that because I thought that was going to be the plan I had to have for the tournament, I was able to now like start thinking about certain situations where I'm like, man, this little setup might be better in certain situations.
Yeah,
I'm able to cast it a lot further than I was with my normal jerkbait rod. To where if I start finding some pressured fish that are that I'm locating way further off the boat, that with my rod I couldn't normally reach them. Like you can find good things that come out of figuring out hard problems.
yeah, yeah,
you know it's all about perspective. It's all about are you focused on doing whatever it takes to reach your goal, or are you just trying to find an excuse to get out of it?
yeah,
That's one of those. That's 100% controllable. You're in complete control of how you approach things and the mindset you have around it. So just, I mean, don't be easy to give up on something. Like it's not worth it. You will be so much more proud of yourself, and you will be so much more proud of the outcome that you get by enduring through it and doing whatever it takes to reach whatever goal that is. So, like I said, I wish I could report back that I endured through all that and have a picture of me hoisting up the trophy, but that's not how it played out this time. And that's fine because I did everything that I could to give myself the opportunity to be successful. You know, Fish weren't there and I never got back on them. That's fishing. Like that's fine. I can live with that. Um but what I couldn't live with is if I looked back right now and knew I gave up, or
right.
knew that I didn't give as much effort to, fixing any of these problems to give myself the best chance possible. That wouldn't set well with me. So the message that I want to drive home today is just stay strong, stay diligent, stay stubborn, and just do whatever it takes to do it, because you're going to end up learning so much more and having better experiences from it and becoming an all-around better angler for the future by overcoming these obstacles that face each and every one of us. Well, Chad, I've rambled on with it enough. Feels kind of good to get that off my chest and talk about it. That's the first time I've been able to really kind of just sit down and get all that out. Kind of the progression of how that week went for me. I hope that's the only week like that. Like I said, I know there's going to be problems, but we can have a few events maybe with not as many,
Right. Right.
but we're ready for them when they come. But
It's a case.
thanks.
Yeah, you know, Casey, I think you nailed it. I think it gives a lot of our viewers a lot to reflect on. And as you were talking, I was reminded of a story where my dad and I had gone hunting, and he wanted to go off the old beaten path to go see if there was a spot where he had heard that the elk were pretty thick. And we went off, and you know as well as I do, it was that kind of rain and mud that stuck the crevices of the tires, so you had no more tread. And this truck started to slowly roll off the road, and we couldn't get grip, and we stopped. We sat there. We were both furious because it was late at night. Should have been at camp by now. Why did we even go off the beaten path? What was the purpose? We were both extremely frustrated, but we sat down, we thought it through, and we knew as soon as we tried to get out of that mud, we were going to go into the ditch and possibly roll the truck.
Hmm.
So, you know, it gave us time to sit. I remember getting out of the truck, being frustrated, But I also remember spending time with my dad on the side of the mountain trying to think of a solution because we know the truck's going in the ditch and we need to,
Yeah.
comprehend that. And, long story short, we ended up throwing a bunch of boulders down the side of the mountain into the ditch where we were going to go in. The truck did go into the ditch, but it went in just enough that we could use those boulders for traction and get ourselves out of the ditch. But at the end of the day, you're right. I mean, we had so many failures, but it turned out to be uh, a really victorious failure, and it's a time that I got to spend with my dad. And now when I look back at it, uh, we didn't quit, we didn't give up, we didn't, we kept pursuing it. And at the end of the day, it turned out to be a really cool story around the campfire. So you're absolutely right. It's those victorious failures. It's what keeps us going, and you know it's kind of like what we've heard. I'm a big Christian myself, and I've always been taught you got to praise them when you win, and you got to praise them when you lose. Uh,
Absolutely.
you know,
That actually makes me. I forgot one more little nugget from my adventure that happened. So I was coming home from the tournament Saturday, thinking everything's fine. It's still dumping rain on me. And for anybody that's not following me, if you go to KC English Fishing on TikTok, you can kind of see how all this played out. But so I've got my boat shed sits out here kind of off from the side of my house. And I wasn't even thinking. I came in, it's raining, all my stuff's out. I'm like, I'm just going to, throw the boat under the shed real quick and I'll come back out, Sunday sometime and get everything sorted out. Well, I go to back the boat in, swing the truck around to kind of line it up, and the truck just keeps on sliding. So I end up getting my truck just completely buried, stuck, still hooked to the boat, the whole thing trying to slide down the hill. And I just got out, shook my head, and put a rock in front of the tire of the boat to where it wouldn't roll any forward, and I just went in the house. At that point, I just left it be, and then came back out Sunday and got it in the boat out, and everything's fine now. But yeah, out of it, all of that too, I forgot to add, I did get my truck and boat stuck trying to park it Saturday after the tournament.
you've had a little bit of everything on that trip.
Yeah, but at least at that point, the tournament was over. Everything was done at that point. But yeah, I did get my truck stuck trying to come at my house. At least it was at my house.
Exactly.
But it was on a big enough hill. I kept kind of peeking out the window every so often during the rain, making sure that the ground didn't give and it slide anymore. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I know this was a little bit different than our usual nonsense, but I promise we'll get back to that very, very soon. We got plenty of that. But we pride ourselves in being able to bring you along with the successes, but also with the, I'm not going to say failures because you only fail when you give up. But, I think we talked about this in our very first episodes. Like you're going to be with us through the good, the bad, the ugly. And, I would rather you be able to learn from my mistakes and how I screw up to where you can be able to go out and maybe, be able to not have to, learn through these things like I did, but it's necessary and it's going to happen. But just know that the other side of it is a lot better. So, keep your head down, get through it, keep a strong mind, just know what you're working towards. But I do appreciate y'all tuning into this, and I hope you're able to take something from it. And I would even like, share with us some of your, the hardships that you've had to overcome on the water, whether it be, tackle failures, things that were in place that could have prevented you from being able to go fishing or anything like that. Reach out to us. You can send us a DM on Instagram at Fish Lift Eat Official. We're on TikTok at Fish Lift Eat Official. Just interact with us on there. Let us know how you overcome it, and we'd like to share that and see what you're dealing with out there and help us all become better because of it. But we appreciate, as always, you being with us. And, if you're watching us here on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on anything else that we're doing. Like and comment and share this with anybody that you think may be able to benefit from it. But until we get together to do it again, y'all remember to keep them lines wet, and we'll catch you on the next cast. See y'all.